Okay, it should pop up any moments, and then we'll start this up, and we should be good to go. Okay, there it is.
Live.
Awesome, thank you. All right, everybody, welcome to episode 5 of Into the Nexus, a Wildstar podcast. Nice, I like that. If only that was beer. Why is it not beer?
It might be beer next week.
Please do. My name is Arkin. I represent Sitting on the Couch Gaming. We have Chief Sarkan, who represents Wildstar fans and MMORPG.com, and we have a new co-host with us today, Zap Ropo. Would you mind introducing yourself and who
Sure,
you
not a
represent?
problem. Evening, folks. I'm Zap Ropo. I run Wildstar Central, the original Wildstar fan site. I've been yeah, absolutely. I've been around since since Wildstar was Wildstar. So happy to join you all.
Thank you. We're a tad bit late because unfortunately one of our co-hosts, Chrissy, is having quite a few issues, so she can't be with us today, unfortunately. But we're going to get right into it because we are quite a bit late. Okay, so for the first, the most obvious thing we're going to talk about is Sabotage, the new drop that just came out recently, about, 2 weeks ago? I'd say, I'm sorry, about a week or 2 weeks ago. My time clock's all messed up. So, just the general impressions of this drop, which was mainly PvP focused, with the introduction of class balance changes as well as the new battleground. Now, Zap, I'm going to ask you first because I'm quite curious about your opinion here, as well as yours, Chief. But since we have a new co-host, I've never really heard what your thoughts are on pretty much anything yet.
Yeah.
So I'm quite curious to hear what you have to say about, just your overall impressions as well as what you've experienced in the battleground so far, the new one.
You know what? It's not been popping too well. At least on my 7 playtimes I've had. So I've only played it about 4 or 5 times now on live. But I enjoy the battleground a lot. For one thing, it's slightly bigger because it's 15 versus 15 rather than the 10 versus 10, and it's mounts are allowed, and it's a big field of play.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard someone describe it. It's a lot like Warplots Light.
You think so?
Yeah, because you got bases versus bases. You got center capture points. It seems to be like the introduction to Warplots. You have to destroy the generator, which is all the objectives from Warplots. You just don't have any control over how the base is laid out.
Now, do you think maybe
defenses.
eventually they might add a way to actually build defenses or something like that to it, or no?
I doubt it. I'd like to see maybe PvP deployables
That would be neat.
from a battleground vendor. It'd work kind of anywhere. Being able to drop mines, turrets.
Yeah, so have a little bit of flexibility with what you build. I could see that, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That would actually make a little more sense. Maybe add a little bit of variety to it. Okay, that's fair. Chief, have you done this? Have you done the battlegrounds? And what do you think just about the overall drop in general?
We talked about this a little bit last time, and I have not done it because I'm still level 20. Yes, I am moving at a snail's pace. But the whole concept, like I said, I talked about before, the fact that you can use mounts in the battlegrounds is just an awesome addition. Mm-hmm. I agree with Zap that calling it a Warplot Light seems like a very good description, and it follows the way Wildstar basically develops all its content. It's all stacked up to where you do this piece, it teaches you for the next piece, which teaches you for the next piece, and then boom! You're in the massive, which in PvP is Warplots, and dungeons it's raids. So, I think it was a nice addition. From what I've heard, there's been some issues and problems with it. They're still trying to iron out, but I don't have first-hand knowledge. I still lay claim to the mounts need to be able to carry the bombs with you, They said they were going to take that. He was going to steal my idea and go off and make it happen, but, we'll see.
Well, that may actually happen. Who knows? But I could see that being just hilarious.
But wouldn't it be awesome? Carry the bomb, drop some mines. Your mounts do more than just get you from point A to point B. Maybe you have to drag some siege equipment across to help you blow up the generator.
Do some whole, oh my goodness, Helm's Deep deal where you just have it on one side. That'd be pretty neat, actually. I could see that being a nice little addition to a new battleground or something. Just a theme of some kind, which would be really cool, because the additions of new battlegrounds so far have been really neat, and
It sounds a lot like the new siege mode in Smite. The third-person perspective MOBA Smite has a siege mode where you have to build up siege towers, which you then have to escort up a two-lane map. Two-lane MOBA style map.
That sounds pretty neat, actually. I think I've done that a long time ago. And again, the opposing team, each side, again, has waves as well as you have to obviously, destroy that tower depending upon, which side you're on or whatever the case
Exactly,
is.
yeah, but this then has an additional big mob that kind of trundles down and helps you destroy stuff.
That's pretty cool. Well,
Yeah,
again,
so you get to have your mounts either get you to point A to point B really quick, or your mounts get really slow because now they have to facilitate some other objective.
I think that would be pretty neat. Again, the real introduction to mounts in this battleground in particular is because of the increase of its size, right? It's a ridiculously large battleground in comparison to the previous two.
Absolutely. The base is almost the size of Walatiki, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Just one of the bases.
That's why, again, the introduction was actually a smart idea. Honestly, if we didn't have the mounts, I could definitely see this battleground being a huge issue, and I don't think many people would play.
Without the mounts, you wouldn't be able to catch a bomb runner.
No.
Even though you can see them on the mini map, if they're ahead of you without a mount, there's no way you'd catch up to them before they kind of drop the bomb off.
Right, absolutely. So that was a nice little introduction. I'd like to see what Chief proposed potentially with the. Again, who was it that actually laid claim to that? Was it Non? Who did it?
Yeah, I think it was Non that come in and said, "Yeah, I'm going to steal that idea and take credit for it." And I'm like,
he'll do it too. Put his name plastered all over it, not give you any credit whatsoever. Maybe mail you a plush, and that is it.
Well, he did say he might hook me up with a special mount or something, but it's all on, it'd be under the table. I still wouldn't have credit. I would just all of a sudden get a mount that I would normally have to buy or something.
Fair enough. I like that plush you got there, Zap. I got one of those too. You have one too? Oh,
plushie.
Look at that.
But I also have.
Oh, that's from Plants vs. Zombies. Very nicely done. See, I have one as well, but it's still in the package since it was actually gifted to me from the developers themselves. So I have not opened it up. Oh, what the heck? What is that? Wow. I need some.
It's a hell bug.
I need some more toys. I need some more toys.
Your games?
That's not fair. I need more toys. But again, from my own personal experience, I've only done the battleground a handful of times. I've had a blast each time. Fighting over bases, the increased player count is nice. There is a downside to this specific map type, though, with the increased player count. It facilitates and increases the likelihood of zergs. It really does. In unorganized groups, it's going to happen.
I've seen it happen.
It's going to happen.
A lot of the time, there's a mid-zerg. Kind of this center no man's land point. Mm-hmm. It just turns into a big free-for-all.
Yeah.
And if you don't kind of rally your team around you to kind of play to more objectives, it can be a whitewash. I've been on a team that won with over 70% of our generator left.
Jeez. See, that's the thing. Is again
just because they captured the exiles captured and held midpoint, we got the mines, we got the bunker, and we ran bombs successfully.
Right. It seems like, again, with the introduction of a new mechanic like this, not everyone's, but the majority's mindset seems to be group up with everybody, right? And just bum rush whoever you can, whatever point you possibly can, as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
it works still to some degree. It does.
It still exists in the other battlegrounds as well.
Right. It does.
Today on a Walatiki temple, people kind of get sidetracked with the killing rather than playing to the objective. It's just something that just happens in battlegrounds, I guess.
I do that all the time.
I think that happens in PvP in general, period. Because, and I think that's because two reasons. You get the people that just like to PvP all the time, and they don't care about the objectives. They care about the PvP, the actual killing of each other. And the introduction of how the objectives work when you go into battlegrounds is almost non-existent. 90% of the time in any game with PvP, they, you're in your queue, you're ready, battle start. And you're like, okay. For people that don't normally do it or haven't already done it a bunch of times, they're like, okay, what am I supposed to do? The objectives are completely off the radar, or it's a little piece of your UI you got to figure out.
Right.
Yep.
And so you know, you got that compounded issue of half of the people that just want to go PvP and they don't care about the objective, and everybody else is just running around lost, or they're trying to learn the objectives, but because half the team isn't paying attention, they just don't get done.
Right.
Yeah, I think Halls of the Bloodsworn is a real offender for that, with the side
absolutely.
points, the main point. The UI now is pretty good at telling you what's going on, but deciphering it, it's nigh on impossible.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the introduction of a new map or a new battleground, whatever the case is. You don't know what's going on. Even if you've seen it on a website, even if you've seen them posted on Twitter, wherever the case is, on a lot of cases, you may not even be able to pay attention to this. You just want to go in and fight, right? So now this brings me to another point. Just to go off topic a tiny bit, is why not the introduction of a deathmatch battleground? It would essentially be a giant version of an arena, right, to a specific degree. But why not do that? Because if that's the majority of what people want, is to just kill each other. Why not let them do that, right? What do you guys think? I mean, Zap or
I think maybe that'd be the rather than doing it as a battleground,
mm-hmm.
have a new zone where you auto flag as PvP.
So just a specific zone that is
mm-hmm.
just for that.
Yeah, just a deathmatch zone.
Now,
if you just want to go out and kill, just have
right.
you have to segregate it for the PvE servers.
Right.
I mean, I play on a PvP server, but for PvE servers, make it a specific zone, and dive in, have at it. I suppose the only downside is you then get population imbalances if you're not queuing for it. But I like objective-based battlegrounds personally,
mm-hmm.
much as I enjoy a good kill.
I just want to slaughter people constantly and maybe occasionally capture a mask. Maybe.
Once in a while.
Once in a while. After every thousand... I'm sorry?
I just finished an imbuement item for Wall of TP, actually, for mass captures.
Those imbuements are insane. Just to go, again,
mm-hmm.
I know we keep going off topic, but just it sort of leads into other things. Is I've seen some crazy imbuements where if you complete a specific objective, it gives you like 80 brutality. I'm like, that's a lot. That's
mm-hmm.
that's nothing to shy at. So I would be okay with that. Now, Chief, what do you think about something like that? A specific zone, a server, whatever the case is.
Well, I like the idea of arena-type combat where it's basically, a big stadium with spectator seats where you can queue up or you take turns and you can go in and say, hey, I'm the baddest guy, last man standing type combat. You can do it 1 against 1, 1 against 3, 5 against 5, whatever you want to do, and everybody can enjoy that. I mean, back in the WoW days, you had the chest. Last man standing got the chest. You could do different types of things, and it was basically
that's the arena system in WildStar, though.
In a sense, it is the arena system.
Yeah, the 2, 3s, and 5s.
I think
what about the arena and practice arenas?
But what I'm saying is you can go in there and say, I think I'm a badass. I want 1 against 2. You can't do that with the current battlegrounds right now. If you think you're that bad, throw up a challenge and say, I'll take on any 2.
That would be cool to see.
It can't be a stalker, but, I'll take on any warrior and whatever else, you know? You've got that openness that provides a challenge. You have a system to where you can say, hey, I just want to practice. I want to go up against so-and-so. And you can queue up for friendly battles. Or you can go, hey, this is for guild rep, my guild against your guild, and you have different options to queue up. And the current PvP systems don't really support that kind of grudge matchery against each other, against specific players or, specific guilds or whatever, unless you're doing it in the open world on a PvP server like Zap and I are both on, and you find them in the world. But to call them out and say, hey, meet me here, like he's saying, have a world place where you can meet to do that type of stuff, but it's controlled a little bit. It's not just, oh, you're in a fight and 50 more guys can jump in just because. No, have it a little bit more controlled like a battleground or an arena, but you designate your parameters. I think that would be an awesome addition to PvP.
Absolutely. Now, I think one thing, and just to maybe end this and maybe put some final thoughts on this before we continue to the next subject. This was something that was introduced to help, facilitate that, having have some control of what you would like to do. Guild Wars 2 had custom arenas where you could purchase it was literally your own server, like a small, tiny server with matches, and you could put whatever rules and whatever you wanted on there. What if they did that with Wildstar? Would that pretty much, address the vast majority of those concerns?
I don't know how Guild Wars did it, but it sounds like it's a PvP housing instance, and Wildstar could do it really easy.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, City of Heroes did a similar kind of arena system where you could set the parameters of your match, timer, you could have spectators coming in for the scheduled matches. So I wouldn't mind seeing a system like that.
I think Wildstar is well set up to do it. It's just how difficult it is to stack on top of all the other systems that are out there. So.
Right, absolutely. All right, before we continue on to the next subject, do any of you guys have any final thoughts on just the current, state of this new drop? Your overall impressions, like what else you wanted to add to it?
No, I'm golden. I'm enjoying it.
Are you now? Very good. Okay, awesome. Now let's continue on. Again, we're just going to discuss one of the dungeons that I believe all three of us here have had some experience in, Skullcano. Now we're going to talk potentially from both sides of it, being normal as well as veteran, if possible. I've unfortunately had the luxury of skipping normal and going straight to veteran like an idiot.
Yeah, how's that going for you?
we did it. I actually got attuned. I've already done raids, but
Yeesh. When
I did it took many tries. So
Yeesh.
Now I have to say, Skullcano is probably one of the more tougher dungeons out of the selections that we have. Just because just some of the bosses seem like they're just a little more forgiving than just some of the other dungeons. Because the introduction dungeons you have, Kel'Thuzad as well as Stormtalon's Lair, excuse me. Those seem like introductory dungeons, right? They kind of give you...
Yeah, they have less going on all at once.
Mm-hmm.
There's, when the boss hits a phase, there's one thing happening, one thing to deal with at once. Whereas I found in Skullcano, they started layering a bit more. As it's the next dungeon along, they started layering what's going on at once.
Mm-hmm. So let's just jump right into the bosses, because there's really no reason, at least in my opinion, to actually discuss the mobs. We know there's trash between bosses. It happens.
Base population.
Base population. All right. That's good to me. Now, unfortunately, because if you're going to go through veteran, just like every other dungeon, there's a specific timer. I don't remember the timer off the top of my head, but you have a time limit to which you have to get through the dungeon, as well as some other parameters. But from a normal as well as veteran standpoint, we'll start with the first boss, the Stu Shaman Tugga, I believe that's how you pronounce it. This guy's a little weird. He's not exactly... I never thought him to be too difficult as long as you were able to time your interrupts. But that could be said with any boss, right? As long as you time your interrupts and stay out of the red stuff, it's really the gist of what the fight is, with a couple more mechanics here and there. So I'd have to say that he was probably a lot... Obviously, he's the easiest one. He's the first one. In most cases, the first boss is like, he's a chump. This guy, I thought, was a joke.
He doesn't seem to tag anything to players. He's all kind of self-contained in his kind of what you have to deal with him.
Right.
Collecting his food and dealing with his, what's it? It's totem that he summons at one point. Yeah.
So you have your interrupts for both the totems as well as the food. The second part of that specific that fight is all around the food, where you only need one interrupt anyways, which makes it vastly easier than the first part. So I'd have to say, again, no issue with this guy. Very easy. I don't think you would wipe at all unless you royally screwed up your interrupts. I mean, Chief, what do you think on this one?
Well, keeping in mind that still at this point of the game, there's going to be a lot of people that really aren't used to how Dungeons is. And while this boss is easy, it does take some group coordination that might still be lacking in a lot of people. The fact that, you have to run and get the food, you got to interrupt, you got to, do the totem thing, you got to avoid the red circles. It's an easy fight for those that are used to it. It's not necessarily an easy fight for somebody walking in cold that has only done the first two dungeons, and this is the first game they've done dungeons in. So he's a fun fight. The reason why I like him is the story behind him. So if you actually pay attention and do some of the extra storyline coming into the dungeon, he's really intriguing. Plus you have the added layers of, oh, well, we want to rescue some people. You got some extra trash mobs that give you some bonus objectives. I mean, there's really a lot going on when you first walk in. True, he's not overly difficult, but there's a lot of other stuff you can do around him or right before or right after that adds a lot to it, that makes it more appealing from a aesthetic standpoint. I guess
that's fair. I can get that. Again, just like it's another one of those instances where you can master it relatively quickly, but you need to know the mechanics of the fight.
Yeah, you got to expect to wipe a couple of times on any given boss first time you encounter him.
If you don't, you've been extremely lucky, or you've been carried by your group.
You've been carried hard.
Probably carried hard.
If you don't have a wipe or two.
Exactly.
Well, this is the point of the dungeon too, where if you don't even stop for a second, you're just one of those that rushes right in. Oh, this is an easy boss. You kind of miss the aesthetics of the island, because before you even leave the dock, you need to turn a look at the left and get the whole reason why the name is what it is. You know, how many people have paused long enough to look? Or you just instantly right into the story, you talk to the guy, you run down the dock, you start beating on the shaman, you know?
I think that's what most people tend to do once they get to veteran, because they want to get attuned, because they try not to waste time. So, but I get that. If you're running normal, then I wouldn't see any issue with that and enjoying the content for what it is. Okay, so let's continue on to the next one, Thunderfoot. This guy, again, I've done it plenty of times, so I can say from just my own perspective, he's not very difficult. But at the beginning, when you first encounter him, he's incredibly daunting. It's just a ridiculous fight due to the massive AoEs, the massive telegraphs, on top of something very interesting. Some of his telegraphs you are requiring you to jump while you attack. Most bosses don't do that, or not.
Yeah, it's something that's not well communicated as well for the UI. Whoever came up with kind of how you actually avoid it, fair play to them.
But, no, absolutely. So I got to say that it's one of those things that it's a lot less forgiving due to how wide these telegraphs are in anything he does. You know, so you're looking at his frontal cone AoE. That's an auto attack that obviously you got to stay behind. The mechanics of jumping while attacking at the appropriate time, having your tank lead him, you know, so into the mushrooms, so he gets stunned. I mean, he's a lot less forgiving just due to the fact that you have to jump. That one mechanic can royally screw you, because if you miss a jump, you're eating a ton of damage or you're dead if you've already taken some damage. So this guy, it's like they throw you into the sharks right after the first boss. The first boss gives you some confidence, like, hell yeah, I'm going to do this. I got this down. Nah. This guy will destroy you if you're not careful. Have any of you guys had any experience with that, and what would you say to that?
Yep. Again, I've only run it on normal, but first time I ran it, I wiped. Just getting the timing on the jumps down and being the party tank, kind of looking around for the mushroom to lead into. But once you get the rhythm, it's a pretty easy fight. I'd put it on par with Grond.
Oh, really?
From Calvareth.
Fair enough.
Easy fight.
Okay.
Easy fight. Once you know the mechanics that you're playing with.
Chief, what do you think?
So I really like this boss for the simple fact it is a perfect training for things to come. They limit the amount of space you have. They basically make your fight area super, super small when you compare the size of the telegraph with the size of the boss with what you have to work with. I mean, it really brings it into perspective where a lot of the bosses you fought up to this point and all the other dungeons, you seem to have a ton of space to kind of control or avoid the telegraphs. And this guy, he brings it home that, yeah, you're not always going to have space. And when you get into rage, you sure find out quickly that a lot of time your space goes away when you do stuff. And the jump mechanic is a perfect example of teaching you that, like I've always said, telegraphs don't make anything easy for you. It just gives you an idea of what you might potentially have to avoid, because if it comes from below, it comes from the top, you know, comes straight at you, comes from behind, it all affects on how you move. And then the fact when you get him done, you have to make a decision. You've never had to make a decision before, in the dungeon as far as progression.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to go, oh, do I want to take the gate to the left or the gate to the right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there was so much going on with this boss that really starts to tell you dungeons, raids, and everything is going to be a challenge.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it's there for these veteran versions, is to get you ready. And if you're not ready and you haven't beaten these dungeons, then you are in no way ready for raids. Just to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. Now let's go into and this is actually capitalizing on what you were talking about just now, Chief. Again, you then have to go through one of two paths. You have a cave, which I would have to say is the worst of the two. Sucks. Got it. That's, oh god. If you are unlucky to get this, then good luck to you, sir. But I will say though, if you can get through this part specifically, it is faster from what I've noticed if you can get through it unscathed. Good luck. Now we'll talk about the cavern, the molten cavern. This thing is ridiculous due to the fact that you have to stay within a small bubble that protects you from constant heat, while constantly moving through just tons of tiny telegraphs, flame jets, anything that would potentially one-shot you. And then over the course of getting through this, through the molten cavern, you then have to now take down I believe it's a shaman. I'm 100% sure. It's the flame crazed Grimgrims, which, I'm sorry, no, that's not it. I apologize. It is, I think. You have to take down these guys within a specific amount of time, or else the aura around you dissipates and you die from heat anyways. So you're looking at a ton of mechanics through this specific... It's not even a boss fight. This isn't even a boss fight. This is just something to get you through the dungeon. Just a simple... Not even a simple mechanic. It's just tons of stuff layered on top of each other, just like what Zap said earlier. So this one sucks. If you get this one, God help you in every single shape or form, because you're going to need it. So I want to know your guys' opinions on this one. We'll start with you, Chief, if you wouldn't mind, sir.
Well, I think it is very challenging, but it's also, it really defines group coordination in the simplest way, because like you said, you've got the limited size of the bubble to go through. You have to have the tank and the DPS all working together while you're avoiding all this stuff. But the healer, in some respects, has a little bit easier job because you're not all spread out. You don't have the opportunity to get out there. Mm-hmm. And it makes it a real challenge. And you're right, it'll eat you up like a meat grinder if you're not well tuned together as a group. But once you get there, you go through it pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's just personal flavor. Because, yeah, the other side is less demanding, but do you really want less demanding when it comes raid time?
Good man. I like the way you put that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Zap, I'm sure you got some insane input through this one, because I despise this part. So
I ran, obviously I've only ran normal, so I'm not, and I've only run it for once, so I wasn't even aware there were two paths that you could take at that point. The path that I took was a bunch of telegraphs you had to dodge through. I presume that's the molten cavern.
Both of them have that specific mechanic.
It's the one with Levika, kind of casting everything.
Oh, no, that's the lava field. That's the next one.
That's the route that I took, yeah. That was pretty easy. It's just dodge, keep out of the red.
That's really what it comes down to. I like how nonchalant you are about that, because I can honestly tell you, I've failed many times.
Granted, then probably on veteran, it probably does a lot more damage if you hit them. But for the most part, it took me. It was only about 3/4 of the way through until I actually got hit by anything.
Fair enough.
And that's because I got turned around. I didn't know where I was going.
Right.
I actually ran over to where Levika was casting all this fire, and thinking that was where I was meant to be going, because it was the named mob. I was just hanging there, dodging, and no, it was just off to one side. Actually, I don't have a member of the group come over and say, "Oi, this way." So yeah,
that's fair.
Keep going.
Keep running.
What are you doing? You got your tank just hanging out, just in the middle of the field, going, "Hey, yeah."
I'm just going to chill here for a couple minutes. Hang tight, I got this.
It's a little cold. I'm gonna warm my hands by her fire.
There you go.
Exactly.
Now we just sort of went through a little bit of the field you went through, the lava field, which is the next area. It's really just, I would consider it just an easier version of the molten cavern. where you don't have to worry about that fire field around you. You can almost take your time in a sense, right? Because there's nothing pushing you. There's nothing forcing you to keep going forward in a sense, as it is in the Molten Cavern. So outside of someone casting on you, like Zap just explained, I would have to say this is probably a lot easier. What do you guys think about this one?
Well, I think this point, if I remember correctly, because it has been a while, though it's easier to dodge, you have the potential of misjumping.
You think so? Potentially?
It's pretty easy to get across, right? You got little chasms you got to dodge, and you got all the flame and stuff. It's pretty easy, but like you said, if you don't realize which direction you go, you might dodge and fall off.
I've fallen off too many times. It's a normal thing.
So it's just a matter of paying attention to your route. How do you want to go? Avoiding, fairly easy to avoid damage points. I think most people die in that area, just fall into their death.
Yeah. Misjudging the jump, absolutely. Okay, so we'll continue on to the next boss, which is Bosun Octog. This guy, little interesting because, again, this one sort of emphasizes what we were talking about by making the area smaller for you due to how many telegraphs are on the ground via the ink that drops on you consistently. So this one's a little rough. You have a ton of mechanics. You have just huge lines of red falling on top of you. You have the monkey that comes...
parrot sweeping down. Yeah.
Parrot sweeping down. You have the monkey that comes down that you have to destroy pretty much immediately, or else he's going to slam you with more telegraphs than you already have to deal with. And then you have the ink, which is an issue in and of itself because one of you is going to get targeted. And the biggest problem with this specific fight is just that mechanic, I would say. It's because you not only have to worry about, doing damage to yourself, but you need to know where you're running. Because you don't want to make it smaller and smaller for your allies, the area for your allies to run in, or else they're going to run into the ink and then we're all going to wipe. So I would say this fight, while yes, you have a couple of AoEs that you need to worry about in the beginning, I would say the real issue with this fight is just the ink phase.
It's certainly the layering of the ink on top of everything else that really kind of kicks you in the butt. Especially if someone kind of gets turned around and starts cutting off the rest of your team from being able to move away from the squids, or
it's very daunting. It's again, worrying about yourself is important, but then you have to take your team into consideration, even more so than any other boss fight, because now you control their fate due to the AoEs on the ground. The simplest thing that I've noticed in this fight just to do is just run on the outside. Just run on the outside. That's the only thing you can do at this point. Chief, what do you think? I would say that's probably the hardest thing about this fight, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty all over the place.
Literally, right?
Yeah. I think you nailed it. There's not really much to add. The aesthetics at this point of the dungeon is pretty cool, though. If you look around and ships in the distance and all that other stuff around there, it's a pretty cool looking area of the dungeon. So
yeah, you start getting a feeling of the mining operation the Marauders have there, and then as you move on, you realize what they're mining and how they're mining.
Yeah, let them keep mining. That's fine. Mine all you want. I'm just here to slaughter your people. Whatever. Okay. The last boss for this one. Okay. Actually, no. Well, we have another one. This guy is... we'll go over him relatively quickly. He's the sniper in this dungeon. I don't really find him to be very difficult. It's just a matter of timing your interrupts, and then it's a tank and spank, from what my perspective is. Very simple. But however, if you don't interrupt it, it is literally a one-shot. He literally shoots you right. It's just, you're dead. You're done. That's it. So, very easy, again, from my perspective, because I've done it so many times. But I will say that, it's just a matter of timing your interrupts, and then that is it. Do you guys have any input on this one? What do you think?
I don't think that exists on normal. I didn't encounter a sniper.
No, the Quartermaster Gru. You remember that name by chance? I believe... Well, there is a chance he may spawn, I believe. I don't think it's guaranteed.
Gotcha. Yeah, maybe he didn't spawn.
Fair enough.
I don't remember any kind of sniper or one-shots going on.
Okay. Chief, What do you think? No? Not quite. Okay. All right, let's go to the last boss. This guy. This guy here. All right. Okay, Mordecai Red Moon. This guy is pretty insane. This is the embodiment of telegraphs everywhere. Everywhere. And this is one of those things to where you wish you would have ran into the Molten Cavern, because it's almost the same concept. You are being forced to constantly run around, whether it be clockwise, counterclockwise, depending upon where it's going. You have giant laser beams that are constantly moving that will one-shot you, and you can't jump over them while fighting this dude. Okay? That is an issue in and of itself. Plus, smaller laser beams, which hurt. They don't kill you instantly, they still hurt. So you're looking at being forced to constantly move, stay out of the normal red stuff you normally have to stay out of, potentially being blinded from the middle issue, the whole whatever the heck that is.
Yeah, the whole overload.
The whole overload thing, which could potentially screw you over because now you can't see a thing and there's lasers coming everywhere. This fight right here gets you ready for raids because there's so much stuff going on. They're just... Yes, instant death from every direction. I need to know your guys' opinions, but that's my take on it. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, on the normal version, there's only the one set of lasers that when it kind of charges up and starts spinning around. So I think it's the Veteran Edition that adds in an additional set that kind of goes in the opposite direction,
yes, it does.
That you jump over. I seem to remember from watching a couple of streams. Yeah, so they don't exist in the normal. But as a tank, I didn't find it complex in terms of mechanics. What it is complex in terms of execution. Kind of turning your back to the terraform at the correct time, stop the blind, leading Mordecai away from his turrets when he drops them. Just generally, you have to be on point. You have to be spot on to kind of get through it smoothly. You know, several times, kind of members of the group just misjudged which direction the beams were going to spin.
Or they're standing right too close to the overcharge, and they're like, "Well, I'm blind."
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of awareness and a lot of kind of being tight on your maneuvering on that map. And like I say, kind of mechanics-wise, it was pretty simple. But while I knew what was going on, I'd still join in the rest of the team wiping a couple of times before we got the deed done.
The deed, you got the... I like that. That's awesome. I can honestly say I haven't heard that in a very long time. Chief, this fight here, I almost feel like a filthy casual with the way Zap talks, because I'm talking about getting wiped constantly, and our friend here is just destroying every single dungeon with one run. What is wrong with me?
Remember, I'm running normal. I'm not running veteran. I'm probably going to wipe forever and a day once I hit 50 in the next kind of month or so.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
I was just going to say Zap equals skill.
The ultimate skill. The ultimate skill that is, a skill.
Big heart, no skill.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. That actually makes sense.
So I think the thing about this guy, it's funny because this is, you start realizing that your death and your damage doesn't always just come from the boss you're fighting. This really is a dance. If you can figure out the dance and how to avoid the environmentals that he's causing, he's not that hard. He's actually pretty easy to kill.
Right.
But when you're getting flashed and then getting hit by the laser and standing too close to the turrets, you just end up dying because of all this stuff going on.
Right.
But the damage from the boss himself that he actually causes is pretty minimal. You know, so it's learning the dance more than it is fighting the boss. Yeah, you got to kill the boss. But, you know,
the dance
is where it's at. If you can't do the ballet and avoid the fire, the lasers, the turrets, the grenades, well, you're going to die.
Because that's what's going to kill you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. People don't wipe on this guy because he shot you too many times. They wipe because they stood in the laser. They got hit one too many times and the healer couldn't keep you up. They
walked into one of the molten pools of
death.
of gold and
death.
They were done.
You know. He's trying to put you into a gold statue and take you home with him. You know.
I wish we could do that. Do you have one behind you guys? Any of you guys have the statue? Because I could use one right about now.
I've got a Granok statue.
All right.
Not to hand, but I've got one of those Granok busts.
Do you really? Oh, I gotta get one of those. Oh, lucky
it's their 5-year service award.
Wow. Hey man, awesome. Well done. Seriously. Okay, so we're gonna have to since we're gonna be finishing the podcast a little early today since we started off a little late. We're gonna finish it up with just 2 more things. We're gonna talk about a new event that's coming up, Gamescom, that Wildstar is attending, which is also going to be really, really neat. And I believe Zap knows that they're going to be giving out in-game items that can only be achieved
from Gamescom or streams from Gamescom.
Yeah.
They just announced this earlier today.
I gotta say, and it's just and I hate to bring down the parade a little bit. I am not a fan at all when it comes to segregating your community with items they can't attain just because of an event. You know, because there's a lot of people who cannot attend these events. It's not going to happen. I think it's awesome they're going, but if you're a completionist or you like to collect things and you can't collect this thing because you're not at a specific event or you don't get lucky on a stream, not a fan.
Item codes, though, are something they can kind of distribute out. People will collect them from a convention and kind of dole them out in giveaways and competitions. And it's a time-honored tradition now for gaming conventions. Look at League of Legends. It's skin codes that they give out. It's kind of time-honored now. I'm not a fan because I want everything and I can't get to Germany. But Gamescom historically has always been Carbine's big announcement show. Gamescom 2011 was when they announced Wildstar. So
no, I'm for it. Again,
I can see them kind of going all out for it.
Absolutely,
as best they can.
I just don't. Again, a couple of other games that I've played have done this. Guild Wars 2, to name another one, with mini pets and so on and so forth. I think it's great. Get the name out there. The game is it's an amazing game. I love this game. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that. If maybe in the future, if they introduce a way for you to obtain this through an achievement, that is awesome. That works. Okay, maybe have it be like a timed, deal to where if you attend Gamescom, you get this immediately, but you must now do a specific achievement to attain it in game. That'd be okay.
Or maybe a variant version you can get in game.
There you go.
So the Gamescom one looks how the Gamescom one looks. You can get something that looks maybe not as flashy, but the same kind of because it's a top hat and monocle costume piece.
Fair enough.
So maybe you can get a shabby top hat.
That would probably be better. I would like
monocle.
That more than anything else. But yeah, Gamescom is going to be really neat for them. I think that's a great idea to get the name out even more. So very cool on their part. Chief, did you have anything you wanted to input for about the upcoming event by chance?
No, I just would like to attend.
Yeah, as would we all, absolutely. Unfortunately.
But I'll be at PAX Prime, so if you want to come,
are you now?
Just let me know.
As will I, sir. I will be seeing you there.
We'll be having get-togethers at PAX.
No, I hit East every year. I'm a PAX East attender.
I should probably do that because I live in the East. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, and then
now they're going to have a PAX South, and then
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
Australia too. But.
Are they really? No kidding. Good for them. Good for them. It's a nice event. I would highly advise anyone who can to attend these events. This is going to be my first one, so very neat.
Oh, you'll have a blast.
I hope so. All right, so we're going to end this with just what we've done since the last podcast. So within the past 2 weeks, if anything has changed or any new experiences that you guys have encountered or anything you've done since then, lay it on me. We'll start with you, Zap, since this is your first podcast with us, so
sure.
I'm quite curious.
Yeah, from 11 Eastern every night, I actually stream 2 hours of Wildstar. Mm-hmm. So I do an hour of Battlegrounds, an hour of PvE questing. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, I've kind of ground my way up to 46. I'm not doing too badly. My favourite moment recently was a Walatiki Temple match where I survived for 10 minutes straight in a team battle.
Wow.
Over a mask. I was standing for 10 minutes solid. Yeah. the enemy team was eventually killed. Our team was killed. They respawn. They come back in, and I'm still there, tanking away. But,
tanking everything.
Yeah, tanking all the things forever.
You should wear a
eventually,
t-shirt that says "Come at me."
Yeah, I ran out of heal support eventually.
Absolutely.
The healers didn't respawn on schedule, and unfortunately.
You were not there when I told you to be there.
You were
what the hell
for a large heal in about now, and you turn up 5 minutes later, you're fired.
But toss me a heal before I fire you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Chief, what have you done within the past 2 weeks, my friend, ever since the last podcast?
Not really a lot, actually. I've been kind of busy with some of my out-of-game stuff over a bunch of different games because of my affiliations with other things going on. Mm-hmm. But I've done a lot of crafting, been supplying the guild with some architect stuff and tweaking at my house. Most of my activities are just logging in and getting resources and doing daily crafting. So though I can't buy the recipes, I have enough crafting coupons to buy a lot of the 50 recipes. I just need to get to 50.
Take your time. Don't worry about that. Let us hardcore take care of you filthy casuals. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. But I gotta say, again, nothing too special within the past 2 weeks. I've been able to experience the new Battleground, a couple of class balance changes, which we'll go over probably within the next podcast. Nothing too crazy. It seems like, again... Oh, right. The changes to PvP gear. Great change. Just to go over this briefly, I would also like to hear your guys' opinions on this as well. In PvP gear should be best in slot every single time. PvE gear should not a PvE geared player should not dominate a PvP geared player of equal skill. Never. Should never be the case. That is what that gear is meant for. So now that they've changed it to where you pretty much have to wear it, or else you're going to get stomped into the ground, no issue with it. Now, granted, damage is a little over the top. They can fix that, but the gear itself, I think, is where it needs to be. What do you guys think? Zap, let me know.
Yeah, especially the fact that they've scaled it now. So it's not kind of, once you hit 1500 rating, you get this whole set of gear, and they've kind of paced it out. So you get something at 1200, 1250, etc. Building up to help kind of smooth out the curve. And help people stay competitive when maybe, for instance, if you got 1700 and you face off against someone with an 1800 rating. Previously, they'd have a full set of 1800 gear. You still have 1500 gear. And the difference was apparently in some cases insurmountable. Now, you'll have several pieces of what used to be 1800 gear at that point. The gap has been closed somewhat, and hopefully that's leading to kind of better balance. Can't speak for it kind of from personal experience because still working on getting to that 50. But I know, it's disgusting.
Disgust me, sir.
But most of my tanking gear is actually PvP gear.
Very good.
Is actually Battleground gear. Plus, of course, it helps running around on a PvP server if you've got some PvP defense and power kind of on hand.
Absolutely.
For when an exile tries to jump you, like one did earlier today, and regretted it.
Filthy exiles. Filthy exiles.
They get everywhere.
Yeah. Chief, let me know what you got on this one. What do you think about the changes? Do you think they're good? It's a good idea?
I think they're taking it the right direction. I'm still a proponent of PvP stats should not affect PvE, and PvE stats should not affect PvP, and they should be two separate gear slots. I am not a fan of gear-centric gameplay as a whole, where you're basically running on a treadmill to replace your next piece of gear. The tier rating is helping with battleground leveling, but if I work really hard to get this new piece of pants, because that's what I need, and then 2 weeks later I'm just throwing it away because I now have to get the next piece of pants, then the next, and then the next, and then you're in dungeons and raids, and it's the next and the next. That kind of churn wears on me, and I like to see improvement in progression and something that designates you. And right now, gear is the easiest way to do that. I just wish somebody would come up with a better way.
Fair enough. I can understand that, absolutely. All right, guys. we're going to end the podcast this week. I want to thank you all for coming. Unfortunately, again, that Chrissy couldn't join us due to technical issues. So thank you, Chief Sarkhan. Thank you, Zap Robo. I really appreciate it, and welcome to the family, the ultimate family by chance.
Thank you.
Any little bit of input either of you would like to put in before we close this off?
Nope, good.
Yep. Right. Happy trails on Nexus, everyone.
If only that was beer. Damn it. All right, you guys have a wonderful day. We'll talk again and see you guys in 2 weeks. See you.
All right. Take care, folks.